Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to our journey together down the road to somewhere. And if you happen to be watching this in March of 2025 when we're taping it, let me wish you a happy spring. We're in Denver, of course, and it's 70 and sunny out. Today it's going to be 75 this week. But I'm sure we'll have a few more snowstorms before the spring is over. But anyway, we are still heading down the highway on the road to somewhere. We are still in Oklahoma, although we are just about finished with Oklahoma. We're clear over here on the western side of the state. And by the way, I think that last time I mentioned that we were on the eastern side of the state, so that was just my error. But we're almost to the end of Oklahoma, almost through Oklahoma, almost through the prophets, almost through the Old Testament. And today we're actually making our next to last stop in Oklahoma, and we'll be looking at the next to the last prophet of the Old Testament. In our last time together, Joy and John were in Elk City, Oklahoma, and today they're going to be traveling down Route 66, not really too far, but to a town called Erick. Now, you might not be familiar with Erick, Oklahoma, unless either you grew up in Oklahoma or you happen to know a little bit more about Route 66. The town has a population of less than 1,000, but for Route 66 travelers, this is a must-stop town, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. If you pull into town on Route 66, you're actually going to be traveling down Roger Miller Boulevard. And Roger Miller's from this town, and again, you probably have to be as old as I am to remember Roger Miller, but he was a prolific songwriter and wrote a lot of sort of comedic songs, probably best known for his song King of the Road, or Dang Me, another one. But this was his hometown, and and by the way, he produced or recorded 52 singles and 19 albums. So again, back in the 60s and the 70s, he was a pretty well-known celebrity. Little known trivia fact, by the way, Chris Christopherson wrote the song Me and Bobby McGee. Most of us remember it from Janis Joplin singing it, but the first person to actually record that song was Roger Miller. Now, his Roger Miller Boulevard intersects another street that is named for a recording artist, and the recording artist that street's named for is Sheb Wooley. And again, you have to be probably at least as old as I am to remember who Sheb Wooley is, but he really had probably only one really famous song, which was Purple People Eater, a song about an alien that comes to Earth not to eat people, but to join a rock and roll band. So that was like a big hit back in the very early 60s. It's interesting looking him up because he actually might have had more credits in terms of songs written. He was in numerous movies and really has quite a resume, but most of that was done under an alias of Ben Colder. And when I looked him up, I was actually quite surprised because all I knew was that he had that one song. So if you go through town, there's actually an intersection that is the intersection of Roger Miller Boulevard and Sheb Wooley Boulevard. And as John and Joy pull into Erick, Oklahoma, John suggests, gee, why don't we shoot the video right here at this intersection? But Joy has another idea, because there is a real classic Route 66 stop here in Erick, Oklahoma, and that is the Sand Hills Curiosity Shop. And what it's really famous for originally was its owners, Harley and Annabelle Russell. Annabelle passed away a few years ago, but Harley must be really quite a character, and I actually added some sort of credentials to him as I was writing my book. But when John and Joy pull up in front, there's a group of motorcycles out front, and as they walk in, Harley is in there telling stories to the group and singing songs, which apparently is what Harley does most of the time. And back when he and Annabelle first started the shop, they actually had a music group called the Mediocre Music Makers. And Harley points out in the book that they were not invited to Woodstock, but music is a big part of what happens there at the Sandhills Curiosity Shop. And in the book, there's quite a bit about this stop in the book, but in the book, one of the first things that happens is that Joy approaches him and hands him a little note. And the note she hands him is actually from the mysterious philanthropist that is funding this series of videos. And in the book, he's just called Mr. A. Harley, they knew each other all the way back from the 60s, and Mr. A has sent Harley a little note, and Joy gives him a hug, and it's kind of a nice little opening to this chapter 37 in the book. And then Joy actually invites him to be a part of the video, and what Harley does is that he invites all of the bikers that are in the shop to come out and be a part of it too. I give him biblical knowledge in the book, so I don't know whether the real Harley has that or not, but in the book, and therefore in this little video, he knows a bit about the Bible, and he knows a little bit about the book that is going to be attached to this particular stop, which of course is the book of Zechariah. So they begin to shoot, and what happens is that John gives a little bit of background on the Curiosity shop itself, and then he segues into the next to the last prophet of the Old Testament, which is the prophet Zechariah. Let me stop for 1 minute and just tell you something about if you try to find Zechariah on the Route 66 videos on YouTube. Now, you're going to have a link to Zechariah that'll take you to that particular teaching video, but if you happen to be trying to watch it on your television and you're scrolling through, there is Bob Beltz Route 66. You can type that into the search engine and it'll pull up all of these videos, but we mistakenly titled Zechariah Zephaniah, which of course was back with Habakkuk when we did a double header there. So, you can get confused looking for it, but know that if that's the way you're searching, it appears as if it's Zephaniah. But if you're actually using the links, you don't have to worry about that at all. Or if you're getting to it off of the Bob Beltz website, it takes you into YouTube, and there's it says playlists, and you can go right to the playlist for The Road to Somewhere, and then again you can get to the proper video. But just a little bit of a warning, I was trying to find it, as I always do, trying to look through the longer video before we have our session together, and I had a hard time finding it until I figured out what had happened there. So they begin the shoot. Again, John gives a little bit of background about Erick, talks a little bit about the Curiosity Shop, and then they segue over to Zechariah. There's not a lot about the book of Zechariah in the book. So in the video that they're shooting, John sort of has this conversation with Harley, and Harley suggests that of course he knows about the book of Zechariah, and he wonders whether the Zechariah, Ezekiel, John of the John that wrote Revelation, and even Sheb Woolley, if maybe they haven't been eating some special kind of mushrooms or something, because of course this is a book that's filled with visions. As a matter of fact, that's one of the ways to remember the book itself, is that it is a book about visions and prophecies. It begins this way. Zechariah says, "In the 8th month of the 2nd year of Darius, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo." This tells us a lot, actually. First of all, it tells us that he receives his message from God in the very same year that our previous prophet, I'm drawing a blank here on the name of our previous prophet there. Okay, Haggai. In the same year that Haggai, 2nd year of the reign of Darius, receives his prophecy, Zechariah receives his. So they probably knew each other. Back in the book of Ezra, it actually says that both of them were sent initially to get things going again on rebuilding the temple. And Zechariah is kind of like the Revelation in some ways of the Old Testament. Again, timing-wise, it's post-exile, very close to the end of the biblical period. We have, again, as you can see, one more book left, the book of Malachi. But both Haggai and Zechariah write about the time when the temple is being rebuilt in Jerusalem, and they come to give encouragement. Zechariah is a longer book. You might remember the book of Haggai was only 2 chapters long. Zechariah is actually the longest book of the minor prophets. It's 14 chapters long, and it contains, again, visions and prophecies. And the visions tend to be visions of the present time. So chapters 1 through 9 is where he has this whole series of visions where he sees horns and plumb lines and flying scrolls and women inside of pots. And there's just a wide variety. I think there's 8 different visions in those first few chapters of the book. One good thing about Zechariah compared to Revelation, which also, of course, is filled with symbolic images, is that in the book of Zechariah, the angel of the Lord always explains to him what the vision means. So you don't have to try and figure out. And when you look at the vision and then you look at the explanation, I realize I would have never, thought that that's what the particular vision referred to. But in the longer teaching video, I go through each of those visions, and there's 8 of them in all, and you will get an explanation of them. The second half of the book then is really prophecies of the future, and in some ways, again, this book really connects with Ezekiel, and some of Ezekiel's visions of the future, ties in a bit with Daniel, definitely ties in with Revelation. There are a few images in Zechariah that you'll also see in the book of Revelation. A couple of verses that hit me that I thought I ought to point out to you. One that's very familiar is Zechariah 9:9. It's the verse or the text that says then when Messiah comes to Jerusalem, that he'll be humble and seated on a donkey. And so on what we refer to as Palm Sunday, when Jesus enters for the Passion Week, of course, he's riding a donkey, and I think the text actually tells us that this is in fulfillment of this prophecy of Zechariah. This is also a book, by the way, that has a very interesting section back in chapter 12, where it looks like in the end times that God is going to do something very special with the nation of Israel. Has a text in there that says that the people of Israel will look upon him whom they have pierced, and will mourn for him and grieve for him. And many prophetic scholars believe that this is a reference to Jesus, and that somehow, again, in the last days, that the Jewish nation will have a major turning to Christ as Messiah and will understand what happened clear back at the crucifixion. Along with Ezekiel and the book of Revelation, it also has a section in this these prophecies of the future where it talks about all of the nations coming against Jerusalem in what is probably the final battle of Armageddon. It actually tells what happens to those that attack Israel, and it says that their flesh will rot on their bones, their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. So a very visual image of what Ezekiel talks about when he talks about the invading armies being devastated by some type of divine intervention. So it's a really good book. Again, it's long. I really, again, as usual, encourage you to make sure and watch the teaching video. It goes into detail on not only the visions of the present time as, again, contemporary of Haggai, but it also goes into quite a bit of detail on the visions for the future. So important to watch that teaching video. That will bring us up to our final Oklahoma stop next week, which will also be the final book of the Old Testament. And then with Easter coming, we'll take a little bit of a break. And after Easter, we will drive into Texas on Route 66, and we will begin the New Testament. So that's going to be a great time. So thanks for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you next week for our final session in the Old Testament.